Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and here we are once again flying at you with another Skies of Ace combat video. I'm going to be talking a bit about some various different versions of the FA-18 Super Hornet while I sit here and play with this is the FA-18F Block 3 version of the Super Hornet, which is the most modern version of the Super Hornet. I'll get into that here in a little bit, but I'm going to start off with the FA-18E, which is a single-seat version, and the FA-18F, which is a two-seat version, are twin-engine, carrier-based, multi-role fighters. They derive from the F-18C, which is a single-seat version, and the F-18D, which was a two-seat version, which was originally developed from the YF-17. The YF-17 was actually a failed prototype project when the Air Force was actually seeking a new fighter. One of the the lightweight fighter program that would bring us the F-16, its competitor was the Northrop YF-17. And that's actually where this plane comes from. See, the Air Force didn't adopt the YF-17. However, at the same time, the Navy was also looking for a new lightweight carrier-based fighter plane. Now, when they looked at it, they looked at both a modified version of the F-16, and then they looked at this redesigned YF-17, and they ended up adopting the YF-17, and that would enter service as the F-18 Hornet. While the FA-18 was originally designed and produced by McDonnell Douglas in 1995, production wouldn't really begin until 1997. This was shortly after the McDonnell Douglas-Boeing merger. So while this was a Northrop McDonnell Douglas design, it would end up in Boeing's hands, and Boeing has since then taken over all the production of the F-18 program. The FA-18 would begin its carrier service in 1999. Over time, the Super Hornet would replace the F-14 Tomcat. Tomcats! Isn't that such a gorgeous plane? Too bad its life it could have had a longer service life. It really could have. But that's neither here nor there. And by 2006, the F-14 was completely retired, by that point being completely replaced by the FA-18 Super Hornet. It is derived from the F-18, but it is mostly a new plane. This was kind of something. So the Navy wanted a newer, bigger version of the F-18. Well, they wanted a newer, bigger plane that could carry more ordnance because they were getting rid of the Tomcats. And, well, that went to the wayside at first because they had to sell it to Congress. And the only way they knew the only way they were going to be able to sell this to Congress was to go, hey, we could just redesign the F-18 to do the job that we need. It'd be cheaper. There would be less research and development. The project would be less risky because we already have these F-18s in service. And realistically, the Navy kind of lied because there was actually quite a few changes made between the Hornet and the Super Hornet. One being that the Super Hornet carries more interior fuel, so its internal tanks are larger. The plane itself is actually larger, and that allowing for the larger internal fuel tanks allows for a greater operational range. Obviously, nothing no one would understand there. It also has more thrust because of its General Electric F414 engines, which were actually derived from the F-18's F400 engines. So, once again, we're more or less, this is a serious upgrade program. The intakes of the Super Hornet is rectangular, while the Hornet was oval. That was another redesign change. And actually, the rectangular intakes can suck in more air, which was one reason they more or less needed it, because they needed more air for the new engines, as well as they just needed better intakes in general. 2 additional Wayne hardpoints was added, giving the Super Hornet 11 pylons versus 9 pylons, so it could carry a little bit more ordnance. The landing gear was also beefed up as well, so this plane was actually able to return with more stuff. So to put in perspective, there's an empty weight, to a bare minimum empty weight that a plane has to have when it goes to land on a carrier. I'm not sure if that's a land in general or if it's just carriers. That's something I'm not 100% sure of. But to land on a carrier, it's got to be under a certain weight. And that mostly has to do with the landing gear itself. The landing gear, the more beefed up the landing gear, of course, the more weight you add to the plane, but also the more weight that you can bring back. So it can actually have more fuel, it could have more armaments, whatever. Currently, only Australia and Kuwait are the only operators outside of the United States that operate Super Hornets. Now, that being said, there's a lot of countries that operate Hornets. They operate like the older Hornets, the smaller Hornets. They don't operate the supersized steroid-injected Hornets. In June of 2020, the U.S. Navy accepted 2 new versions of the Super Hornet. These are the Block 3 variants, which so far the U.S. Navy seems to be pleased with. They intend to actually buy a total of 78 brand new Block 3s and upgrade its current fleet of 550 planes. The cockpit also has been redesigned as well. On the left side, you actually have a Block 2 F-18 Super Hornet, and on the right side, you actually have a Block 3. The Block 3 would feature a single large touchscreen display, and the new Block 3 is also claimed to have it would also have upgraded computer-linked systems, and the new Block 3 is also claimed to have an improved radar cross-section. This doesn't give the Block 3 stealth capabilities, but it does decrease its detectability, so the chances that it will be detected. The means by which this is achieved is currently top secret. There's no information about how this is achieved whatsoever. I went digging as far as I could. I don't understand how they could actually sort of beef up the plane, but decrease its radar cross-section. Now here comes the beefed up part. The Block 3 also has 2 conformal fuel tanks on the fuselage. That's actually those large round bulges you see on the side of the plane on the upper part of the fuselage. You'll actually, if you go into Ace Combat, you can also see them on the F2 Super Kai, and if you look on the internet, you can also find them on the F-16 Block 52. So this is not a totally new concept, that there seems to be some of these older planes, to essentially gain legs, are trying to find ways to expand their fuel tanks and fuel limits without increasing the size of the plane itself. And it really doesn't. I mean, it makes it look a little bit more beefed up, but you know, that's really kind of it. It just looks like someone gave it a little bit of steroids. And I mean, that's all I could really say about the FA-18 Super Hornet. It's been around for a long time now, and I imagine it's going to be in service for much longer to come, considering they're just now getting these Block 3s. So I mean, you're probably talking, what, 30, maybe 40 years yet that these planes will be in service, because, well, it seems like with the Generation 4 fighters, they don't seem like they're going anywhere anytime soon, especially with even with Generation 5 fighters being added to the whole ball of wax here. You know, planes like the F-22 and planes like the F-35. And that being said, what I'm kind of getting from the Navy is yeah, they're going to be taking in these new F-35s, but they know they're not going to be getting a whole lot of those anytime soon, let alone those F-35s can't do everything the Super Hornet can do, even though it is also a multi-purpose plane. Now, the other unique thing about the FA-18 Hornet is, from what I understand, digging around, is the FA-18 was actually the first plane to have the designation FA. Understand that A is for an attack plane like A-10 Warthog, and then F is for a fighter like the F-15 or the F-16, and even though there's the F-15 Strike Eagle, which is a multi-role plane, and it's meant to actually be used as a ground attacker, even though it can also be used as a fighter, it still has the F designation. The Navy, well, they did something weird and decided to call this an FA-18. I don't remember, honestly, what the whole thing was for them designating this plane as an FA versus everybody else doing Fs and As and so on and so forth, and the alphabet. And understand the alphabet gets bigger than that, because you got the EFs, which is an electronic warfare plane. Like there's the EF-18 Growler. There's also the I think it was the E6 Prowler. I don't think the E6 is in service anymore with the United States, but that was an electronic warfare version of the A6 Intruder. So it's kind of interesting. And then of course you have C for the cargo type planes, and AC for, well, you got AC for AC-130, baby. Anyway, folks, that's enough ranting from me about planes, but there you go. That is some footage and some information about the FA-18 series and the FA-18 Block 3. Anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for tuning in. And please, be so kind. Share this video around with your buddies. Anyways, once again, thanks again for tuning in, and have yourself a wonderful day.